Hello and welcome. My name is Rande Howell with Trading, and today what we're going to be looking at almost an intermediate way of understanding the psychology that you bring into trading. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be taking a look at the way your beliefs about money show up in your trading and limit the possibility of your potential, and how you can go about changing your beliefs about money and what they're associated with and start developing the potential of yourself as a trader. So first, what I'd really like to do is I'd like to thank FX Street and Vicki for hosting us and allowing us to be able to speak with you about this incredibly important topic. Most people get into trading and they really think all they have to do is methodology, platform, and then they come face to face with they're still not there. And what we're going to be looking at is how money and beliefs about money actually form that. And what I want to ask you is this. If you don't think you have an issue with money and the way your beliefs about it and your patterns about it in trading, these are the 8 things you need to ask yourself. Do you hesitate to enter trades due to a fear of loss? That's the money narrative. Do you have a fear of pulling the trigger because you may lose? That's the money narrative. Do you have emotional meltdowns while trying to manage a trade? Just absolutely go to pieces. There you go. Do you jump out of trades with little or no profit? There you go. There's your money narrative right there. It's fear associated with money and power. Do you feel compelled to make up for prior losses? There you go. There's more money narrative. All these are linked to your perception and your beliefs about money in the trading arena. Do you beat yourself up after a loss? Yeah. Do you have an urge to overtrade? I'm just going to win, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. I'm going to show everybody. Yeah. In particular, do you lie to yourself and others about your trading performance? All these, my friends, are associated with your beliefs about money that you learned a long time ago in a place far, far away. Fundamentally, what traders finally come to understand is the mindset about money that they brought into trading is in fact not the mindset that's going to produce success in trading. It's a real wide-opening, waking up moment. I've actually had a guy come up to me. Well, actually, this is where this slide came from. He came up to me with a business card, and it literally had a photograph, shiny photograph of gold, a ton of gold bullion. And he looked at me and says, Randy, this is what I envision. I am going to be worth a ton of gold. And I looked at him and I said, oh man, there's more of this visualization, affirmation stuff that feels good but doesn't impact long-term success. And I said, well, here's what I ask you. Instead of just envisioning this and making affirmations that I am worth a ton of gold and stuff like that, who do you need to become to make that vision a reality? Totally different thing. He hadn't considered that he was going to have to change the self to be able to produce the wealth, the success. And what my promise to you is wealth is not going to show up on your door through trading because you're wishing. It's going to show up because you become very proficient at your methodology and you bring a mind to it, a redefining that allows that methodology to bring you wins. Okay? So there we go. How does this happen? How does this happen? The thing is what people finally come to understand is that there is a heck of a lot more about trading than knowing how to trade. You're going to spend 2 to 3 years learning proficiency of a methodology and a platform so that you feel it and you can see the patterns and you react to patterns and you know them. Okay? However, it's also about what beliefs you bring into trading, particularly about money. We're going to get more specific about those beliefs in a moment. It's in particular about the submerged beliefs about money and uncertainty that drive your trading. My promise to you is what happened back then when your brain was in the formative period called your family of origin and the culture you grew up in. I promise you came to notions about money that influence the way you trade now. So let me ask you this. If you know how to trade, and I'm actually assuming every one of you today knows how to trade. I'm also assuming that because you're in this class that you have not you've got a roadblock that sits between you and the performance you know is possible. And here's the deal. If you know how to trade, why can't you trade when the money counts? Okay? The pieces you need to understand from an emotional intelligence standpoint is this. You are blind to the beliefs you hold about money that drive your trading. And you believe that real, lasting success is possible without having to actually change the self that trades. The Holy Grail is out there. No, the Holy Grail is you, and it has to be developed. And most traders do not understand that biology, brain, emotion, history, and mind create the beliefs that you bring into the management of uncertainty. I know that's a mouthful, but we'll be looking at that deeper as we go through this presentation today. And that is the Holy Grail right there. The other thing that really stops people, they stay in denial, and what they do is they don't hold themselves personally responsible for the results they have in trading. You can lie to yourself, you can deceive yourself, you can put off and avoid coming to terms with yourself in most areas of life. However, in trading, you can't. That trading account keeps staring you in the face, and if it's shrinking, it's telling you the beliefs that you're bringing to trading are not the ones that are going to produce success in trading. And then, a lot of people in trading, particularly as they come into trading, really truly don't understand that working with your psychology and developing it is just as essential as the other elements of trading. It's generally about year 5 to 6 or 7 that they realize they've gone through all the Holy Grail things, all the gurus, all the methodologies, all of the new indicators, all this and all that, and they finally arrive and going, you know something, the problem I have is what I'm staring at in the mirror. The problem's me, it's not my system. The sound is very low. Well, I don't
sound good here.
Sound good here. Okay, so I'm hoping that that's your computer and your volume control. Now, let me know if anybody else is experiencing low sound. The other thing is that you deny the need to change. You keep putting off change until another day, or you're simply not willing to change. And I can promise you, to become a successful trader, you are going to have to change your beliefs about money and about uncertainty. And my question is this, you ask this thing, why is change so hard? You know, a lot of people I talk to know they need to change. They know that if they continue with the way they perceive right now, that the success is always going to elude them. And they know they need to change, but they won't commit to changing. Why is this? Honestly, it has as much to do with biology as it does psychology. Your brain creates patterns that are built to avoid the fear it experiences in uncertainty. Now, I want to tell you, think about that right there, is your brain is simply not designed to be in trading. Your brain is designed to produce a sense of certainty. And trading is when you have to embrace uncertainty and risk. Very big deal, man. You have to retrain the biology of your brain to do that. Then, what's interesting is that these patterns actually go on automatic, and they start operating out of your awareness because they become familiar and they go to the background of mind. So they're operating out there, and you don't even know it. You're just foot loose and fancy free, and you don't realize you're blowing yourself up. These patterns create a comfort zone, okay, and what we call in psychology a perceptual map. And the moment you try to change the comfort zone, it is going to try to pull you back in. The thing is, the familiar pain that you have right now is a lot more comfortable than the possibility of success or more failure in the future. So the brain's going to pull you in, keep you in pattern, and you just keep blowing up counts, or what you do is you cut yourself and bleed slowly, the death of 1,000 cuts. And then, anytime you attempt to change until you really truly declare that it's time for me to change, not wishful thinking, but actually say, no, I need to change the way I perceive reality. That, you're going to find resistance, and you have to work through that. So there you go. That's why it's so hard to change, and that's why people stay stuck. Now, let's do this. The beliefs you have about money become a window into your trading mind. Not the beliefs you say you have. That's all surface. You know, there's some really great books, Trading in the Zone, where you're told to assume these beliefs. And then you go in these and you say, I declare, I believe this. The truth is, your beliefs will be reflected in your trading account, not in what you say to yourself. Your success, if your beliefs are effective, it will show up positively in your trading account. If they're not, you're delusional, okay? What really matters are the beliefs that create your PL statement, where the performance of your beliefs in the arena of uncertainty of trading occur. That's the ticket, no other place. You can't look in the mirror and lie to yourself. The trading account is the truth meter. The health of your trading account is the only indicator of the real belief that is beyond self-deception. Okay? That's why a lot of people have to drop out. And then the money script. Our beliefs about money. You don't have beliefs about money. Beliefs about money have you. The truth is, you are born, you have a brain that is developing and adapting like crazy. It is born into circumstance. It is born into a history, a perception about money, power, adequacy, worth, and meaning. And it's there. This is what a lot of people would call ancestral mind. And understand, you do not have this mind. It has you. What's very, very common is I was talking with a guy the other day, and what he says, you know, Randy, I'm at this point in my trading career where I'm very methodical. I know how to develop this stuff. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling back because I have this foreboding something wrong could happen. And what we did is we ended up tracing it back, and he grew up in this family. It was a poor family. And every time these people had getting a little bit together, they had saved a little money, and, you know, suddenly things were looking pretty good, something bad would happen. You know, the car had to be replaced, the transmission had to be replaced, the air conditioning unit had to be replaced. And they never got ahead, and something bad was always going to happen, to the point where the family had a mantra. If it wasn't bad luck, there wouldn't be any luck at all. Now, this guy, he goes long way away from that family. He has a successful corporate career, and he wants to get out because corporate life just absolutely is it. And he gets into trading, and what he discovers is this belief, magically, invisibly, is the hand that is producing his trading. That's the way it works, friends. That's the way it works. So my question to you, if you've got a pen, if you're typing, you start asking yourself this question. What did you learn about money, uncertainty, risk, loss, power, and your ability to manage uncertainty from your family, from your culture? You will learn a lot about yourself here. Now, to help you answer that question, let's start locating that historical money script. Now remember, you don't have this script. Your brain was born into circumstance, it adapted to this, and now that script has you. It's trading you. And as long as that happens, you're going to miss potential. Let's ask this question. Do you ever feel sounds cutting out? Well, let's see. Now, is that everybody, or is that one person, or is that everybody? I'll put my mic a little closer. Okay, now, do you ever feel there is never enough money? Do you believe that if you had more money, you would be happy, respected, in charge? Do you believe that the rich take advantage of the poor? Do you believe that you have to work hard for your money for you to have worthwhile? Do you believe that everyone and all the markets are out to get you? Or do you believe if you risk, you'll lose? Better be safe. I'm only worth so much. I'll prove myself by making money. I've worked with people who has a high six-figure trading account, and every time he bumps up into seven figures, he blows it up, he goes back to six figures, he builds it back up. This is his worth being expressed in his trading. So, now we've got that. The truth is, if you have a fear-based meaning of money, it becomes associated with your sense of adequacy, your sense of mattering, your sense of worth, your sense of power. This is the organization of self that you had no control over, that your brain is doing long before you could think. Now, what does it look like all grown up? When you see self-limiting beliefs about money, you observe them through the way you manage the uncertainty of trading. And suddenly what you'll discover, if you listen to yourself when you beat yourself up after a bad trade, or when you end up on the wrong side of probability, you will hear that I can't win, I'm inadequate, I just don't matter, It's unworthiness, I don't deserve this kind of success. Or I'm just powerless over the markets, there are big power players out there. you'll hear it, and money flies away from you. These are the self-limiting beliefs behind a shrinking or stuck trading account, and this is the money narrative. So we've got it. Now, if we know that, and suddenly you realize that your money narrative is the biggest obstacle to your trading success, because what happens is they are your wall of self-limiting beliefs. And trading success means getting beyond that wall. You have a current level of self-mastery, and particularly the ability to manage your perception, your beliefs about money, and that's what has to change. Now, that's all well and good, but I'll ask you this. How do you break free of the self-limiting beliefs that hold your trading as a prisoner? That would be the real question. This, my friends, is first about developing emotional intelligence in trading. And the first part of developing this is recognizing that the self-limiting patterns in your trading are the same ones that stop you from taking action in your self-development as a trader. You listen and say, maybe I need to trade, maybe I need to find the Holy Grail, but I'm not going to listen to anything else. This is called cognitive dissonance. You find yourself resistant to, blind off the need for change. That is the first obstacle that has to be overcome. Because the truth is, your trading IQ really, truly begins by developing your emotional intelligence, EQ. You have to manage the link between biology, emotion, and mind. Your emotional intelligence is far more important than your cognitive intelligence. The truth is, your emotional brain makes a decision, and your thinking brain produces an explanation to support that emotional decision. So much for thinking, okay? And the truth is, how do you go about changing this stuff? Well, I find that a 5-step process works well, and this is actually what I teach. The first thing is you're going to have to produce emotional regulation of fear and impulse. More about that later, but you're going to have to interrupt the fear, you're going to have to interrupt the impulse. Then you're going to have to develop mindfulness as a tool. You're going to have to be able to step back and recognize that you and your thoughts, you and your beliefs are not the same. And with that tool of mindfulness, you're going to begin to observe the money narrative that you have about power, money, worth, adequacy, and meaning in your trading. Then you're going to use that same skill of mindfulness, this observing. You're going to find empowered elements in your personality, and you're going to bring them into awareness. You will have indwelling resources within you that allow you to move from a mind built around certainty to a mind that embraces the uncertainty and knows how to manage it. Then what you have to do is you have to learn to be intentional about it. You have to say, you know something, I need to develop this so that when I enter my trading day, I'm already in the zone. I have developed a system for being in the zone. I'm intentional about living my life so that I stay there. And you go, wow, this is interesting. How do you start? First, you start with emotion, and you recognize emotion is biological. And you take a look at this slide, what you begin to see is that brain, emotion, and mind are embedded in the same substrate. If you understand this, and it is out of your emotion, out of your emotional brain, that is what colors your mind. That's your trading mind. And all of a sudden you realize, oh my God, I need to start with my biology. I need to start with my brain. I need to understand emotion in a way of being able to work with this brain-mind business, because that's what's showing up in doing my trading. And the first step that you're going to end up having to take is understanding emotion very differently than you understand it now. First, emotion is biological. It takes over psychology. Touchy-feely, if you have a perception of emotions as touchy-feely, or that you believe that you can just leave your emotions at the door when you trade, you're going to continue the same old pattern. The truth is, an emotion is any disruption to a standard, familiar pattern that the brain has already established. Now, what does that look like in trading? A good example is this. You're sitting there and you started your trading day, you've got your screens up, and what you're doing is you're looking at all the information, and what you're looking for are particular setups. They're not showing up yet, and everything is just cool, homeostatic, and everything's fine. Suddenly, things start setting up. You start getting confirmation. Your indicators are screaming at you, and you're going on, and all of a sudden, entry. That is a disruption to standard familiar pattern. Suddenly, by definition, an emotion is going to come forward. The only question is which one. Most end up in fear because it's an untrained mind. A good trader, when trained, when that happens, it goes on alert, it goes on concern, but a whole host of things show up looking for opportunity. Fear is not present. Then the second thing that you need to understand are what are the elements, because this is what allows you to start managing emotion. Arousal, that's your body cranking up. Tomorrow, when you start trading, I want you to sit in front of your screens and watch your body. Watch your breathing and the tenseness in your body, and you'll notice that you're not breathing well. You're either panting or you're holding your breath. That's arousal. That's the emotion beginning to crank up. And if it cranks up to a critical mass, it will flip a switch and become a feeling. And my friends, feeling, not only is it the subjective experience you have of the emotion, what it is, feeling is the chemistry of the emotion in the body, and what it's doing, it's creating a belief in the certainty of whatever direction the emotion is taking you. If it's fear, then it's going to produce avoidance. If it's greed, it's going to produce euphoria, and you're going to jump in and do stupid things. Critical. Once you feel the emotion, you're toast. You have to manage emotion before then. Where is that emotion taking you? That's motivation. That's what it's telling you to do. Avoid, attack, approach. And ultimately in trading, you have to learn to embrace, approach risk instead of avoid or attack it, which is what most new traders do. Now, the other thing is within this complex, this neural biology circuitry we're talking about, meaning the self-limiting belief about money that you have becomes associated with the whole thing. And suddenly the embedment about your adequacy or your inadequacy, about your unworthiness, about your not mattering, or you're powerless to have anything to do with this becomes embedded to that. And it's just this ball that fires. And before you know it, you're doing really stupid things, and then you kind of wake up one in your review and you go, what in the world happened? I know how to trade this. I see the setup. I see the way this should have been managed. But the emotion, you never caught it in time until it became a feeling, and it wiped you out. That's how it works. Temperament is something I don't work with simply because it is genetic predisposition, and that's just way beyond my skill set. The key is, let's talk about this thing and say the first stage is emotional regulation. This is interrupting the arousal of an emotion, or even not allowing the arousal to show up. And again, if you hold breath, if you have shallow, rapid breathing, if you have tense muscles, your neck, your jaws, your shoulders, if you have fixation, if you find your pulse pounding, racing, if you find that fast feet, that foot going up and down, up and down, up and down. If you find increasing energy, what you're doing is you're now experiencing reactive thinking. The arousal, the moment you're already feeling it, it has aroused, it has gotten there. And the truth is here's the deal. Your emotional brain does not think. Your emotional brain cannot tell the difference between biological threat and psychological discomfort. The truth is your emotional brain is doing exactly what's happening in this picture. It's seeing fear of loss to the emotional brain is fear of loss of life. Okay? And that's exactly what's happening. You're getting in a trade, you're watching the trade, and you're seeing the potential of loss. Emotional brain's thinking, this is loss of life. And there you are, like that poor caveman, going just, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And the emotion of fear takes over. This is why you've got to interrupt it. So if you do that, then what you also discover is that you end up calming the emotional fury. And by the way, does anybody in here not understand emotional fury? Have you ever panicked in a trade? Have you ever hesitated? Have you ever just absolutely found your finger frozen on the trigger? Have you ever found yourself beating yourself up after a trade? You know what the emotional furies are. The thing is an emotional regulation gives you the ability to manage the intensity of the emotion so it doesn't sweep you away. And how you do it is you notice the breathing and tension signature. You observe the body for breathing and tension elements of emotion, and this is where you interrupt the emotion before the critical mass is reached. The key is feeling is chemistry and distorts your thinking. If it goes beyond arousal, you're cooked. What you'll discover, because emotion is biological, breathing and tension in the body are part of an emotional repertoire. And what you can do is you can volitionally change that. Fear cannot exist if you're doing diaphragmatic breathing. It requires the holding of breath or the panting of the top third of the lungs. Fear requires tension in the body. If you disrupt those elements, what you do is you disrupt the intensity of the emotion, and it gives you the ability to manage state of mind. This is 30-year-old technology. This is Herbert Benson's work on the relaxation response that he studied yogas who had been doing this for 5,000 years. All that Benson did is he took out spirituality and he saw what they were really doing physically to alter emotion. This is how they do it. So now you have an idea of how to emotionally regulate emotion. But let's take another step. Let's go to skill 2. Let's develop mindfulness. Okay, this is the essential skill for exploring the mind's belief. This is when you develop the ability of stepping back and watching from a disinterested position. In the same way here, this guy is sitting there frying an egg. At the same time, he has the ability of stepping back and projecting and seeing that he can observe this rather than just participate in it. He doesn't have to be sucked into it. He can step back, take perspective. This, my friends, is the EQ, emotional intelligence game changer. Because when you become aware of the embedded biases, the self-limiting beliefs and thoughts that drive your perception, you begin to have hope. You begin to recognize that you and your thoughts, you and your beliefs are not the same. You have just never woken up to them, you have been blind to them, and they have been operating in the back of your mind out of examination. Developing of the observing self as a witness to the coming and going thought changes everything. Because ultimately what you discover is you need to become a manager of the beliefs that you are. Observation, mindfulness, is the tool you use to be able to observe the real beliefs that are in the action of trading, not the ones you say you have. Now, when you do this, let's say you develop this mindfulness, and this is again something that you're going to learn one way or the other. The third skill is actually beginning to use that observation. Then you begin to observe the internal dialogue. This is where your money narrative is located. And you start distinguishing between internal chatter and internal dialogue, between noise and substance. You begin to recognize that thoughts give voice to the belief that is driving your trading. So if you tune into it, as a detective, you begin to see, I'm beginning to understand how this crime of losing all my money is occurring. You start seeing the self-limiting beliefs and the emotions that are tied, and they're given voice in this historical internal dialogue. Now, my friends, you're born into this. It's not your fault. However, it is your responsibility, because until you wake up to it and start taking charge of it, it is going to determine the course of your trading, the course of your life, too. And what you're doing in here is you're discovering what makes you react, what makes you tick. And very, very rarely is it a pretty picture, okay? It's just something you do. And what you discover, the money narrative, is really contained in the current organization of self that trades. What you will discover, and again, what I want you to do is go back to a moment in time that you beat yourself up, or you were trying to pull the trigger, or you were in a trade, and you were hearing that you're going to lose, you're going to lose. You know, what kind of idiot do you think you are? That's the inner critic. That's the inner critic. There's a part also that this is the part will also tempt you. It's the one that, get in. No, it's not in your trading plan. Jump in anyway. God, it's a great trade. God, you're going to make $1 million. And then there's adapted self that is listening to all this and being hooked into it and swept away because you don't know how to regulate the emotion and you don't know how to produce mindfulness. In mindfulness, what you're looking to do is you are looking for the self-limiting beliefs of the fear-based internal dialogue. The inner critic, go back to the beating self up or the inability to enter trade or the collapse of managing the trade. You will find a voice that is criticizing, judging, predicting doom, or tempting you. That's the inner critic. It is a highly destructive part of your humanness. It's not going to go away, and the more people try to ignore it and pretend it's not there, the more power you give it, because its power is in its stealth. There's also the adapted self. This is the part where the emotional brain is adapting to environment, and it takes on various roles. The first one, the doubter, I can never win. It's always for other people. Why is it me? Someday. Chicken Little, negative appraisal, that's the person who hesitates and the trade's gone. Always looking for more and more confirmation until the trade's gone. The gambler, I'm just going to jump into this thing. I'm going to get it. I know it's right. The perfectionist, this is the vast majority of traders. I have to win. I have to win. I have to win. If I don't win, it's proof that I'm inadequate. The entitled one, I deserve to win. I've got the system. I've got the training. I deserve to win. The con, this is when you lie to yourself. I don't really need to change. I can always put it off. The thing is I'm going to find another system. I'm going to find another way. I don't have to do anything with myself. I'm just fine. BS. The thing is you have to develop the mind to trade. I promise you, the mind that you brought to trading is not going to be the mind that is going to produce success. You have to develop that mind. The fraud, this is pretending to look good when you're actually not. You're in a trading room and everybody's doing trades. And they're talking about how great they're doing and all that, and here you are, working hard as you can. And you're going, wow, everybody's doing so much better than me. The truth is they're fraudulent. 90% of the people in that trading room are losing, including the ones boasting how good they're doing. The orphan. The orphan is the one that has the fear of missing out. It's the one that has the fear of missing out, jumping into trades impulsively, and the fear of missing out, of jumping out of trades when you've just gotten a little profit and you don't want to miss out on a little bit of meager profit that you can get. Orphan. The saboteur, this is the ones who actually start producing success, and they start building success, and they fall into euphoria rather than fear. And euphoria starts producing a mind that says, something, the good times are going to roll, I'm really okay. And that starts influencing your thinking mind, and suddenly you're making really poor decisions and you blow yourself up. If you take a look at hedge fund traders, this is their biggest problem. They actually know how to trade. They start making money. They start really believing their press. They get euphoric, and all of a sudden you're there. J.P. Morgan just experienced it, and it cost them $2.5 billion. The alpha male, this is modeled by the American executive coming in from corporate America who's set goals and I'm going to command reality. I'm going to win. I'm not going to lose. I'm going to take over. And number one is the only thing I'm doing. And you get into trading and find out that mindset blows you up. It blows you up. In trading, you are going to take what the market is giving you. You're not going to rob the market. It's very good. This is the dance of the internal dialogue. This is the alpha, okay? And here, my friends, you're born into these self-limiting beliefs. Your brain adapts you. And if you continue in them, if you continue in the cognitive dissonance where you're really refusing to change this and refusing to look at this, your performance stays in the same place. If you want to produce the performance, this requires something else. The fourth skill, this is where you really look for lasting change. You start using mindfulness again, and you realize that you can develop indwelling resources of your potential. What does that mean? What does that mean? What that means, in the same way that fear lives within you, that criticism and judgment lives within you, that grandiosity lives within you, so does courage. So does discipline to organize the self and maintain order. So does patience and self-soothing, that you can soothe yourself down rather than beat yourself up. So does impartiality. These are elements that live within you as part of your humanness. The problem is, for most people, they have been pushed aside and they have not been developed. They're there simply because you're human. And the key is, how do you go about developing them? Well, one of the best ways to start is this way. Is you begin to conceive of the mind very differently than probably the way you see it right now. If you begin to see the mind as your trading committee, as your boardroom, and you realize that the trading committee is composed of different forces, different personalities, and when you begin to realize is that you're the chairman of the board, but unfortunately you've been asleep at the wheel. And in your absence, in your mindlessness, highly destructive elements of the self have been able to take over the committee and direct your mind and your future and your potential into areas that you would rather not go. Meanwhile, on the other side of the table, there are these inward, inherent, indwelling resources that you have neglected to develop. You may have seen them occasionally, but they're there, and you're going, okay, now that I'm awake, now that I'm here, now that I realize that the mind is something that can be developed, I'm not stuck with a concrete cast version of my mind. The truth is the mind, beliefs are very plastic. They can be reworked, not by magic, okay, but by emotional intelligence work. Then things start looking a lot better, and you start going, okay, well, what are these parts of the self that need to be developed to move me to the next stage of trading? I can tell you right now, this is where my emotional intelligence work and Jungian archetypal journey work come together. Carl Jung and Carol Pearson would say that there is a warrior inherent in you. They would say that there is a ruler inherent in you. They would say that there is a sage inherent in you. There is a caregiver inherent in you. What I would say is this, is that I'm not asking for symbolic representation of these elements of self. I'm asking, well, what is the emotional signature that represents these qualities? This is the game changer, friends. Because ultimately, courage is the emotional signature of a warrior, and it has to be developed. You have experienced courage in your life. The key is, have you developed courage to be in working awareness rather than occasionally showing up when you really need it? The next thing is, discipline is associated with the ruler archetype. You need discipline. Without discipline, none of this is possible. You have to organize the team, and you have to make sure that under stress you keep your integrity together. The discipline, the ruler element of the self, is the one commanding the different forces in the mind to come on, to be at play, and to be ready for this particular moment in time. These are the guys who trade well. These are the ones who develop this, and they're able to find this stuff. The other element that is absolutely essential is caregiver, and this is where a lot of traders go, huh? They're buying into everything until this. The caregiver is the part of you is self-soothing. It's the part that soothes the fear down, soothes just the hyper arousal that goes on. And it comes from a position of compassion, self-compassion. Just like that famous guy said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. You don't beat up what you love. That's what traders do. And in compassion, what you discover, the scientific literature is very clear about that, is that if you want to change beliefs, you bring compassion to the belief. Because it is compassion that literally untethers the old belief and dissolves the circuitry of that old belief and organizes it into higher worth, higher meaning, higher mattering. That's how you do it. With those three elements in place, the courage of a warrior, the discipline of a ruler, the self-soothing of a caregiver, what you do is you abate fear. And what that does is that frees impartiality. That's that thinking mind you have that is so darn good when released from fear. That's the sage. That's what Carl Jung would call sage. Suddenly what happens is you are trading from an impartial state of mind, a disciplined, impartial state of mind. And that, my friend, is the one that you go, okay, I have concern, I have reverence, I have vigilance that I'm working with. I don't have fear. You have transformed fear, biological fear, into reverence, into vigilance, into concern. Very different emotional state to enter a trade with, because you have the disciplined impartiality, and you're no longer thinking from fear of loss. You are thinking from management of probability. You are embracing risk with the confidence to know that you have the mind that can manage uncertainty. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Then, as you awaken this stuff, and understand these are elements of the self. These are inherent, indwelling resources that live within all human beings. They're there waiting you to develop. It's the Holy Grail. It's not the Holy Grail. It's not out there in a new system. It's not out there in a new methodology, a new teacher, a new broker. It is there inside you, waiting for you to develop it. That's the ticket. And the question is, you have to intentionally build it. It's just not, you no longer wait and say, well, I'm going to get in the zone every once in a while. I fall into the zone, da, da, da. No. You build rituals. You build ways of getting into that zone. Like in American baseball, when you look at a great hitter, what you will see him in the on-deck circle. And you will watch him go through a ritual of building a mindset, zoning into this place where he's a hitter. When he gets into the box, he's already in the zone. Each pitch, what he's going to do, he's going to step out of that batter's box, he's going to reset his mind, he's going to come back into box, and he's ready to hit ball again. Same thing in trading. There will be instrumental times, when, particularly before you start trading. Actually, I will actually help build mind for traders when they go to bed, when they wake up in the morning. I mean, if you're having nightmares and if you're getting, if you're having your guts having problems, you wake up anxious, these are all elements where you have to attend to them right now. What you're saying is orphan is taken over, fear is taken over, and you need to assert these heroic elements of the self. Then when you get to trading, the thing is you better walk in with a state of mind. Each rep, each particular move that you have within the trading cycle, you need to be able to assess what is the mindset I need to be in to be able to manage this thing efficiently. That is intentionality. And my question to you is this: who's going to populate your trading committee? It's not going to happen by accident. You're not going to fall off the wagon and suddenly the trading mind's there and you're good to go. It's not a Hollywood film. The truth is when you have an empowered mindset, you approach uncertainty from a position of discipline, courage, patience, and impartiality rather than fear. This allows you to embrace risk and move into the trade and give it. And what you're doing is you're bringing the mindset that allows you to produce excellence in performance in the trade. At that particular moment in time, it's not about winning or losing. It is about excellence in performance of your trade. Winning or losing will take care of itself because you know that you have the mind built to manage and embrace uncertainty. And again, my question is, who's going to populate your trading committee? Because ultimately, here's where the tire actually hits the road. Is the mind that you bring to trading is on your left. It's a historical money narrative. It's fear-based, and the mindless trading, you stay blind to the internal dialogue. You do not really have management of it. You wish things would happen. You tell yourself things are going to happen. And what happens is you stay unaware of the potential or how to tap it. Your inner critic stays the source of your self-limiting beliefs. You continue beating yourself up. The same patterns keep going over and over again, the same ones that happen in other areas of your life. But in trading, they're more painful. And the adaptive voice continues. You keep reacting from fear or impulse. This can go on for a long, long time. Finally, you get out, you blow your accounts, you bleed yourself of your assets, and maybe you might come to the moment where you train the mind to trade. Very few people do that. They just get out of trading. Or you can develop the mind for trading. You can develop the discipline and impartiality mindset that is built for the management and the embracing of risk and uncertainty. Okay? This is what I call mindful trading, where literally you have command over the internal dialogue rather than being its victim. And when this last box, basically what you're seeing is a very good diagram of what the mind looks like that is well-trained, well-disciplined, ready to trade. This ruler energy, this discipline, has the whole thing. It's organized. It knows who's going to be at play at any particular time. And I've wanted to be able to help you see the link between the money narrative, the internal dialogue, and your performances in trading. They are linked because ultimately money is linked to power, adequacy, worth, and mattering. It becomes to symbolize those. And most of us have some pretty warped ways of perceiving and doing that understanding of this. You can listen to this particular broadcast again and again. If you want to go further, get my book. It's Mindful Trading, Mastering Your Emotions and the Inner Game. Literally what happens is it's a book about getting into the head of traders and seeing how they start out as traders who do not even know how they're blowing themselves up to traders who grasp how they're blowing themselves up and traders who redevelop the mind for trading. Powerful book. And then what happens is you just submit. That's how you do it. Now, we finished, and what I would do is, if you've got questions, type them in. Let's take a look. Here's the first one. Is emotionless trading what we must achieve? I hope not. The only time that you're emotionless is when you're dead. Okay? Emotions are biological. If you're in homeostasis, you may believe that you're emotionless, but what you are is just in a calm state of mind. It is not emotionless. It is not freedom from emotion that you're seeking in trading. It is freedom of emotion. Once you grasp that all thinking is emotional state dependent, it becomes a game of saying, okay, thinking is highly overrated. What you want to do is you want to develop the emotional repertoire that builds the kind of thinking that produces success in trading. What most people call emotionless is actually an emotion called impartiality. You would know it by logical thinking, clear thinking. But you're in an emotion, and it's very good for solving problems, but it is highly contaminated by fear. So the goal is not emotionless. It is freedom of emotion, so that you develop the mind that emerges out of the brain and out of the emotional brain, and that is what trades well. That's a good question, though. I like that. Any other questions? You need to type them in, because otherwise what we'll do is we'll get off. You guys have been an interesting group, and this is really thinking heavy stuff that when you start really looking at it, you begin to say, okay, I understand that what I have to do is I have to develop the mind, and it's just as important as developing my ability and methodology in my platform. And this has also been recorded, so what I want you to do is go ahead and just go back to FX Street in a few minutes, in a few hours, and what happens is they'll have a link to it so that you can go over this. I know a lot of people, what they do is they take a lot of notes, and they go back and they really take a look at it. Randy, your talks are fab always. After listening to you at the start of the year, I got aware of my negative self-talk. How do I work on it now? Well, there's several things. First thing is, I would get the book to begin with. I would look and you begin, because the negative talk to me is not something you get rid of. What happens is negative talk is showing you what your negative beliefs are, and what you're doing is you're going after them. Okay, what you realize that negative talk is the historical internal dialogue, and what you're doing is you're saying, I want to know who this is. I know the adapted voice, and unless I champion that adapted voice, that fear, the inner critic, all this negative judgment stuff, is going to continue absolutely taking me. And then, as you do that, the book is just a far better way. It lays out a program like this, and it puts it down. That would be the first thing I would suggest. And some books on cognitive behavioral therapy work. The problem with cognitive behavioral therapy is it believes that emotions come out of thinking, whereas in emotional intelligence work, you realize that thinking comes out of emotion. So that would be the first thing. How long does it take to achieve all of it? Never. My program is built to last, my individual program is built to last 3 to 4 months, because I know that it takes that long to develop a new belief, okay? My self-study program, particularly the ones that I also do group courses with methodology teachers. Right now, I'm having one with Traders Help Desk and Strategic Day Trading. And there what we're doing is we're teaching them in a group process, while the methodology teachers are teaching the methodology combined with this self-development program that we're talking about. I work with people, I've been working with people for a number of years they would be what you guys call super traders. And what they know is that, they're trading 6-figure accounts, and, they're doing the deed. And ultimately what happens is they want to stay in touch, they want to work. What they're doing is they realize it just gets more subtle. It just gets more subtle, is that the trading is always going to expose the flaws. And at some moment, you really come to a moment where you're saying, something, I want to know where these flaws are. I'm tired of avoiding them. What happens is I know the flaws of the things I need to focus on. I'm out looking for them. And again, that's why I do my individual program at 3 or 4 months, and my self-study program I encourage people to take 3 months to do. Okay, it just takes that long. I mean, how long to achieve a successful mind? Again, what happens if you understand your brain is set up to be a negative assessment machine? That happened about 6 or 7 million years ago. It's not going to go away, and negativity or euphoria will blow yourself up. It is more of a Zen position, but the thing is 3 or 4 months. That's the answer to your question. You develop the tools. And what I'll say is this, is that recently we've seen J.P. Morgan melt down $2.5 billion. What happened is those traders, it's interesting, they never knew that they were in the throes of euphoria. Okay? This is the difference between traders like that and retail traders. And when you have a proprietary trader like that, is that their problem is not fear. Okay? Their problem is euphoria. And they think they're successful, they think they're great, they're stallions. The thing is that mind, euphoria is kind of like being on cocaine. It has an enormous amount of dopamine, it has an enormous amount of adrenaline, it has an enormous amount of cortisol attached to it. They never saw that their mind had been totally contaminated by euphoria. And unfortunately, euphoria is an emotional state whose feeling says and makes the mind believe. They believe that with certainty that the good things are going to roll and they can't go wrong. And they fell into that, and other proprietary traders were watching these guys and going, what kind of idiots are these? And they bet against them because they were in a much more stable state of mind. They were in a managed state of mind. So what I would say, destructive tendencies will always be with you, but what happens is you learn how to manage them and you spot them. You produce a vigilance that you realize that that destructive quality is in me. What I need to do is I need to be alert to it. I need to be feeding the constructive element. So what most people will do is when people check my records and things like that, people have gone through my program. They have been trading for a number of times after that, and they're able to consistently say, yes, I've been able to change my beliefs. I have consistently been able to do it. What you'll see about these people is they stay rigorous about their mindfulness practices because they darn well know that the junk can creep back in, but they now have the skill set and the observer set that allow them to stay really on top of their game. So I wish I could give you a Pollyanna answer, but the truth is I want to say something. You're always being tempted. You're always being shown the dark side of the force. Is visualization good? Yeah. I use visualization a lot. I use a lot of guided meditations, but what happens here is often the visualization that you use comes from what I would call a lower part of the self, and you start equating success with a Ferrari and stuff like that, and you get it all cranked up, and you just think all I have to do is visualize the success and it will come to me, like The Secret, okay? The truth is that there will always be an internal struggle within the self. When you're visualizing, I visualize a warrior as a person protecting the kingdom, okay? Knowing that the dark side of the force will come visiting. You know, if it contaminated Darth Vader, it will contaminate you. The key is that as you develop the skill sets, when you use visualization, what you're doing is you're recognizing you're developing that element, but you're not pretending that destructive elements of self are not around the corner. And what you do is you develop that vision of a feeling. And by the way, I actually get into feeling, but not like feeling of the euphoria of success. I get into the feeling of disciplined impartiality of a person who performs the trading with excellence. And as long as you're trading, there is no winning or losing, there is no fear, there is no euphoria. After you finish trading, you can have all the euphoria and fear you want, but while you're trading, there is no place for either of those. What you're doing is you're building a mind that produces an excellence in performance of the trade. Okay? Last question. How to develop the managed mind like professional traders? Well, what I would do is, very seriously, what I would do is I would start with my book. I would go and take a look at my 2 programs. And if I were really serious, to be honest with you, I would only look at one of them. I would look at the personal consults with me. because ultimately, I work with a number of professional traders, and they were not professional traders when I met them. They are now. And they developed the mind, and again, it is not going out and finding the magic wand and hocus pocus and there you are. It is literally recognizing that you are going to have to develop the mind and the beliefs that exist. You're not going to declare you believe a certain set of beliefs until you see the results in your trading account. And over time, what you do is you become the professional trader that's earning his way and doing well. So that was the last question. I would really like to thank FX Street. This is a marvelous program that they produce. Vicki is super about this. And this is the kind of educational material, whether or not you do anything or not, you learn an enormous amount about emotion and the emotions, the way they build mind. And this is an element that everybody is going to have to self-develop to achieve the kind of success that you want. So, my friends, I ask you my hope is you find prosperity in trading, and I hope that prosperity includes a deeper sense of worth, meaning, and power in the way you understand money, you understand what you're doing in trading. And if I can be of assistance to you, I would consider myself blessed. So, my friends, I've had a great time. I hope you have a great life, and I hope you trade well. Goodbye.